Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Very excited to be with you to talk about advanced LinkedIn outreach strategies, an area that we get constant questions, and honored to have Danny Shapori here with us today, head of the DNA Business Development Department, been with us for over 6 years, been a close personal friend of mine, one of my favorite people for over 25 years. And if you want to talk about experience, Danny has personally worked on over 100, likely closer to 200 different equity crowdfunding campaigns, fundraising campaigns as a whole to date. They say you can't be an expert at anything until you've done it every way you can. Danny has approached these campaigns in every fashion, also uses the LinkedIn for his own business development. So it's the perfect host to have with us here today. Danny, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
And do you want to go into your background a little bit before we hop into the topic at hand?
Yeah, sure. So been in the digital marketing space going on about 12 years now. Started on the search SEO side. Started working with DNA and got into our first Reg D campaign in 2014, 15. And yeah, I've managed over 100 of these campaigns and I've seen all different levels and speaking with issuers every day.
And those efforts, I might add, as I know you're modest, produce millions of dollars in funding for the most part every month, depending on how back we look. So not just a matter of going through these processes, but the tangible results that they produce.
Yes, absolutely.
And, we'll have time for a lot of your perspectives, commentary as a whole as we're going through this. So kind of want to hop into the deck and give the audience some direct notes. This is available to anyone who emails us after the conference with your confirmation address. There'll also be Danny's email address made available throughout the process. Again, this is directly about advanced LinkedIn outreach strategies with Danny and myself. So let's begin with why LinkedIn outreach. And Danny, I would just ask you the title of this slide. Why? Why LinkedIn? Why direct outreach? And why the combination of those two?
Yeah, Jason, I personally feel it's one of the most underutilized B2B strategic partnership type of social platforms. The audience is there. There's a lot of ways to engage that audience and build relationships, which would include direct investor acquisition to your Reg D, Reg CF, or Reg A plus campaign. And we've seen it proven through the efforts with our clients and as well as our own outreach efforts.
Exactly. It is underrated as a platform specifically for outreach. You could literally find anyone you're looking for, the exact individuals at the exact organizations that you're trying to build a strategic partnership with, that you're looking to engage for B2B type of deals, or per the focus of our discussions, our campaign, investor outreach. You'd be amazed by how many people put investor as a job title on LinkedIn, and in most cases, industry specific. You can have that focus to different geo targets. It's all lined out for you. You can see their profile, their background, their mutual connections. You can only go after people with the same mutual connections as you if you wanted to, and look to get that higher level engagement. So, we hear about it for ads. It's good. Their ad product's improving. We hear about it for all types of different contexts, and we'll get into many of those today. But again, underrated resource, and everyone should be doing it. Everyone should be doing LinkedIn outreach, whether it's to investors, whether it's to whomever for their own practices. And Dan, you want to get into some of the stats on these pages? This is actually published by LinkedIn for investors specifically. You want to get into some of the data here?
Yeah. So if you're looking at specific investors, and I like to keep it as more high level type investors, family offices, VCs, angels, these are where you can get some of the higher investments here, um, where the ads are more focused on retail. And it gives you some stats that we were able to pull, on relevant type of updates, content. We touch on the investor funnel so much. This is a key channel for that, and really be able to focus on social proof as well. And it gives you some high level metrics. 5 million investors around social media, um, factored around different types of affinities and different members around that, whether it's second degree, first degree connections, and even going into IRA accounts, 401k content. Gives you some metrics, high level here, on what the potential is.
Exactly. And I was actually surprised by some of these stats. So, where do investors research financial decisions? Yes, it's other websites. Yes, it's various social platforms, including Facebook, which is a key driver for these campaigns on the advertising side of things. But LinkedIn surpasses that on percentages. It is a direct research tool, it's a direct influence tool at that. What makes ultra affluent investors different? Well, 79% do their own investment research. Yes, they may have teams, but at the same time, wealth management is such a big part of their lives. They do their own research. It's a passion, it's an interest for them at that point. So many of our campaigns have these huge bursts in terms of growth on how much they're raising. And that's often from an accredited investor, i.e., an ultra affluent. Percentage breakdowns for here, of course. What makes LinkedIn members different? Well, many of them have IRA accounts. They have 401ks. They're more likely to invest in mutual funds. There is more of a financial mindset among heavy LinkedIn users. You can, paint out the psychographics for that, where they're interested in their income, they're interested in business development, and what they do with those resources. Having their money work for them is definitely an affinity shown here directly by the LinkedIn data. Also, what do investors want from financial companies that use social media? It has it all lined out for you. These studies have been done. This research is very present. It's not so much of a question as much as an application. So more relevant and timely content and updates, information and greater transparency, real-time interaction and conversation is all available. WeFunder, Justin Renfro over there, has a great recommendation in his playbook of having a LinkedIn post that you then encourage your investors to comment on. Provides an example of 200 or more investors commenting on that post and what it does for the LinkedIn algorithm, what it does for the feeds of each of those commenters, and how present, how featured that post will become. It provides the opportunity for more outreach. We're going to get into the direct tactics here, but just speaking to LinkedIn as a platform, have to mention that it's one of the most successful tactics I've seen outside of outreach and utilizing the platform as a whole. Again, where do investors expect financial companies to advertise? Yes, it's these other sites, it's financial websites, it's online newspapers, but it is LinkedIn. There is an expectation to be there at this stage because of what the platform does. So the top 3 purposes institutional investors use social media. Do you want to talk about this a bit, Danny? I know you're in touch with a lot of VC groups. Before the shutdown, we're handshaking and going to fancy dinners with them on a regular basis. Do you want to talk about why they use social media?
Yeah. In regards to like specific content, there's a lot of ways you can curate what type of content you're seeing. There's different groups on LinkedIn, similar to Facebook, but I think it's more tiered to the investors within those channels. And you can see from some of these stats, you're looking at 43%, looking at the news feed or updates from your connections within LinkedIn, where Facebook's fallen under that, and then Twitter from there. Focused more on some of those other metrics, you're able to dive into specifics around what type of content you're looking at. And diving into that, you look at thought leadership, that investor's funnel, what separates you from those other audiences, what makes your offering unique. And it's more about relationships, building authentic relationships through LinkedIn, where if you're approaching them with a salesy type message in the beginning, you really want to humanize your approach. And you can see from the stats here that LinkedIn is very powerful for that. You can research specific industries. We have 54% around LinkedIn. There's also commentary on markets, events. So it's really that community that you're looking to engage with. And you want to be able to provide value to them versus just ask them on that first type of connection.
Absolutely. We're seeing it used different than any other platform, a different behavior that users are preparing themselves with before posting, before responding on LinkedIn, or let's say Twitter. A lot different types of terminology used on Twitter, a lot more conflict at that. Even the way invitations are accepted on LinkedIn versus another platform, where I know many professionals who accept every invitation that comes to them from LinkedIn because of the risk reward factors and limited concern when bringing on someone new to their professional network versus Facebook, where it may be reserved for friends and family. And here's a little food for thought at that. A strong LinkedIn out strategy with a strong profile goes a long way. Investing in startups is a risky adventure. Those that do invest, see capital, always do due diligence before taking the risk. So if you approach Danny and send him an email and say, hey, I want you to invest in my company, he's likely going to do some research. He's likely going to perform due diligence. And when he searches around, LinkedIn is likely going to be a place that comes up. It shows your full head count in terms of how many employees are there, what their backgrounds are, if they all live in the same city as you, so on and so forth. Generally more employees on LinkedIn than are currently working with the company, the way timelines work out. But it's a key spot for due diligence. Danny, you want to share some more food for thought here?
Yeah, and Jason, I know we touch on that investor funnel so much. You can really engage, authentically with people that you're connected with. People are going to research, what your activity was on LinkedIn. They want to make sure you're active. They want to be able to showcase, what type of content you put out within that channel. And, you can engage with them, and there's a whole activity log they're able to see as well, where they may have mutual connections that you were able to comment on or be active on. And, they really want to know what separates you from the others that are reaching out to them, specifically around an investment opportunity.
Well said. And it reminds me of the whole offline to online comparison, meaning the type of conversations that you would have offline as you're stating that. That's what comes to mind for me. And prepare for that deep dive into your LinkedIn page from anyone who's anticipating to invest in you, considering, intending to invest into you. Our first few tips are centered around the profile because that's where your personal brand begins. And in many cases, the audience is investing in you as a founder. It's been in different studies we've personally done, a key element of why individuals are investing, because of the founder, because of the team, because of their belief in the overall direction and the milestones that are going to be obtained. So you need to stand out from those other LinkedIn users. We'll begin with some tips on how to do that. Here are 5 advanced profile strategies that are designed to set you up for strong responses with your outreach to follow. Number 1, ensure that your page is optimized. An optimized page clearly allows people who search you to clearly identify you and understand your value proposition. It needs to be front and center. It cannot be too long. Many individuals accomplish this with their actual headline, But I try to put myself in the other party's shoes. If I saw a profile, let's say it's a CEO with no context, activity, or engagement, I would not be compelled to take things further. I would not be even sure that they're going to respond to me over LinkedIn if I had a question, or through their site. Maybe they're too busy for life and they can't get to their LinkedIn. Who knows? But they don't seem to be active in today's business world. And it's likely going to show up on their digital investment offering. They could raise capital offline. They don't need LinkedIn on. That if they don't need LinkedIn, they could probably raise capital offline. Why am I going to engage in their digital round? There just leaves question marks for me. Danny, you want to share some of the other themes here?
Yeah, so going into humanizing your about section, you can be real creative about this. This is where you're able to shine and really show your personal touch. There's a section on mine that even goes into some like personal lifestyles I have. So it's not just strictly business. As Jason, you mentioned, they're investing in you and the team, not just a product or service. So this is where you're able to like really identify that. And there may be some common interests that you can create with these investors that are aside from just that business opportunity. You can lay out your experience, different types of skills. There's a whole skill section on there. We picture this as a landing page for a business, but for yourself. And it has a lot of the similar components to it. We look at skills as a social proof component where we're able to really identify what type of skills you have. And there's other individuals that can endorse you on those skills. And you can also do that for others as well. We also have, when Jason pulls it back up, we also have the section of endorsements. This is basically similar to having a publisher talk about your product or service. You can have experts in the industry actually talk about their experience working with you. It could be a past employer. It can be a mutual connection. It can also be different types of individuals that worked with you on a certain project going years back. But this gives that a personal experience from a third-party validation, giving that experience of how it was with you in that engagement. And it may be someone that they follow that does this, and that's going to create that personal connection on what they can experience in your engagement with them. Having a good headshot, it does sound very straightforward, but you'd be surprised on, how bare bones some LinkedIn profiles are. So, having something that represents what you do and having that showcased in your headshot and showing confidence there, you're going to see a higher conversion rate from any efforts you do by having all these laid out in your profile. And I know, Jason, you're speaking and looking at LinkedIn all the time as well, just like me. I mean, is there anything else you think you could add here that I may not have touched on?
Yeah, I think it's similar to a landing page and creating social proof in a very small window of time. If you're able to show major publishers that have covered you, if you are a contributing writer at any of those publications, I'm part of the Forbes Agency Council. I'm able to connect with other members through there. It's something that gets brought up and shows our relationships in the media as well, a validation, if you will. And I see other groups do it with Inc. and Entrepreneur. I see it done with local organizations, Santa Monica Chamber of Commerce. I see it done with all different types of entrepreneurial groups. I see it done with the LinkedIn groups themselves. And I see overlap with some of the top vertical specific groups within that. Anything that shows validation in a quick way. We have a client that was a Forbes 30 under 30 front and center in his profile. We have friends at other agencies that report how much revenue that they make, how many exits that they've had, things that immediately show endorsement, third-party validation, social proof, you name it, from a cold audience that's visiting you for the first time. You could have your network endorse your skills. You can have recommendations from people you've worked with. And don't underestimate a great headshot. If it's a blurry photo taken on a flip phone, from years back with a couple other people cropped out, it's not going to appear the same as if it's a professional shot. You are a professional. Everything should reflect that overall visual, that overall brand. Number 2, Dan, you want to hop into this?
Yeah. So the best way I can sum this up before going into specifics, what type, if you were at a networking event and you're going to, let's say, an investor lunch and you wanted to connect with somebody, you're not going to try to sell them on the first message. So there's also different ways to like boost this type of content around your personal brand. So you can set aside a small budget around press releases, paid media. You can also boost your post on LinkedIn and run a small budget, and it basically creates more engagement from those posts. So meaning more eyeballs. You could also have a whole action plan around a content calendar where like to be very intentional of what content we're putting out there, and then of course measuring that. As Jason mentions, a test optimized skill approach. You're able to see what content's resonating best with your audience. And looking at compliments, supporting different companies, this is that thought leadership space, and having users comment on your content, giving value to other individuals that are posting around relevant content. Also, it's really that hands-on approach and having a workflow that you're able to scale based on what you're seeing as far as measurables go.
Yep. And treat it like any other brand marketing approach. Create a content calendar. This week I'm posting this. These days I'm going to look for current events and add my brand's thoughts on it. Look for opportunities to use LinkedIn publishing, maybe monthly, maybe weekly. Look for opportunities to use LinkedIn Live. We're going to get into other products down the line here that you could be using from LinkedIn, but as a whole, really treat it like a brand. Your name is a brand that's pulling your organization, that's pulling your company. People relate with individuals. If you are at the forefront, naturally, once your company is brought into the picture, there's going to be more trust that is present. Number 3, leverage LinkedIn's upcoming features. So here is where we're talking about other things you could be doing on LinkedIn. Again, it's all going to go hand in hand with the amount of invitations you're receiving, with your acceptance rate of invitations that you're sending, with the overall messaging response. So LinkedIn stories, they saw Instagram, they saw Snapchat, they saw all these other platforms doing it. They have incorporated it into their platform. This could be done at a physical conference. Maybe you're going to shows overseas at the moment. This could be done, through your day at your home office or your hybrid office or your back in action office. You can be showing updates on all the exciting things you do as a business. Live broadcasts, such as this, can be done directly on LinkedIn, again, being done on other platforms. It's now incorporated in LinkedIn. There are some rules around it, but it will send notifications to your audience. I get push notifications on my phone all day of people who are broadcasting that I know. I've been on a panel with someone, if we've worked together with a founder and they're going live, I'm going to tune in at least for a moment. We'll see if they capture me from there. Lead form ads. This is the most exciting ad product that I've seen come out of LinkedIn, as it mimics the Facebook lead form ad. It autofills name, phone number, email address, company name. That is associated with the higher conversion rate. Could be questionable quality, but at the same time, you're filling your funnel, which you can then have more engagement occur later on mid-funnel. LinkedIn publishing, they're incentivizing users to publish their articles there with higher placements in the algorithm, with stronger distribution than you can see from other platforms or even your own site. LinkedIn groups, I've put together very strong partnerships that continue to bring business to DNA through LinkedIn groups that I participate in. And InMail. InMail is an advertising product. You get a set amount for free with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, but at the same time, you can buy more. You can reach out to people that haven't had a connection. It's not the focus of this webinar. This is more about organic outreach, but it can be used. We prefer organic outreach. getting an invitation accepted, getting a response from there. But it's out there, and all products should be explored. You may want to blend it and see where you're getting the better response rates from. Danny, you want to talk about how to get more engagement with users?
Yeah, so engagement's a form of social proof as well. It's a way to connect, authentically with others. And, this headline says it, be social, engaged. There's good content being put out ongoing. It's more active than it's ever been. So it just shows you're relevant. And LinkedIn has an algorithm. So the more active you are and having that optimized profile, as Jason touched on, you're actually going to rank for keywords in that search. LinkedIn has a search query, and when people are doing certain searches for certain job titles or skills, you're able to organically appear there. And the more active you are, just like Google, LinkedIn's algorithm is going to pick you up as more relevant. So this is all that organic type of touch, and you're able to get traffic from that. There's a lot of search keywords that I pop up with, and it's just all from the content and engagement that I do, and then picking into the algorithm that's going to showcase that. And it really can be a way to tap into other audiences from those search keywords that you're able to appear on when they are searching for those type of skills or engagement from content you looked at.
Yes, and search is one of the top utilities of LinkedIn, especially with Sales Navigator and being able to really dive into, as I said before, the exact individuals you're looking to reach. There's 20 some odd search filters, company size. We're talking about targeting different investors, can have it segmented to all different industries that they work in to show some type of background in a vertical, some type of understanding. When you're looking at posts and you see a higher level of engagement, not only does it look good, we call it a vanity metric, but not only does it look good, it actually feeds into LinkedIn's algorithm. It tells LinkedIn, yes, this is a good post. This is a relevant individual. We want it to show up to more and more of our users. So do whatever you can to get higher into that LinkedIn algo. Okay, so want to start moving into the recommendations section, and that's gonna lead us into the outreach as a whole. But as a founder, if you have a list of recommendations, maybe some of the top professionals in your industry putting a recommendation, going back to the landing page concept, that serves as endorsement. That serves as the testimonials page on your offering, on your site, but right here on LinkedIn. And the audience can click over, have an understanding of how important that individual is, of why that's so meaningful. So seek out these different types of recommendations. As put on the page here, picture this as an as seen on press section on a website with publisher logos, talking about your brand, service, or product. The more you have, the more trust this creates to visitors and traffic. Recommendations act as social proof. All of it is that same message. People will trust you more if you have these warm comments. So, pay it forward. Start by giving recommendations. Miraculously, you'll see them come back. If you had a great experience working with a team member, don't hesitate to ask them to write a reference. The sooner, the better, but think very mutual while you're doing this. So whether you're paying it forward, whether you are looking to reach out to them first, maybe it's a good excuse to give them a call and talk to them about everything and ask towards the later end. Just mention that you're trying to get more recommendations and see if they offer it. It's a good place to be. For advanced outreach strategies. So getting to the second half of this webinar, we are talking directly about outreach. We've done outreach over email. We've done outreach over the phone. We've done outreach door to door. We hit conferences. Danny and I have been to conferences in over 8 countries. We have tried all different approaches towards outreach. And I must tell you, LinkedIn is where it's at. It's where we put together some of our largest partnerships as an agency. Danny brings on clients every month from his own LinkedIn outreach, and our investors Across our accounts, we're getting larger average investment amounts from investments that are occurring on a monthly basis, even more frequent for many clients from this type of approach. So, getting into it, it all starts by creating a list. Danny, how do you recommend founders to create a list of who they're looking to go after for their investor outreach?
Yeah, great question, Jason. So a few things I usually recommend when we're in this initial conversation with clients is, put together an ideal hit list, like you said, of, the ideal investor that you're looking to target. And keep in mind on LinkedIn, we typically go after the larger investors versus retail because a few reasons. You're able to find them easier. They usually have family office in their profile, VC, any type of investor type of keywords you're able to search. And from there, you can measure which responses you're getting best and then optimize further to what type of audiences you're getting the best response from. And the biggest thing here is, don't get discouraged if you're not in a lot of, conversations the first month. We usually see the second month, the third month, you're in more conversations. Not everyone accepts the invites right away. But you are able to gauge what type of feedback you're getting from these audiences and then do more of that based on the conversation that's appearing best. And it all comes down to having a list, putting deliverables to there, seeing what's working, and then from there being able to optimize your list further.
Exactly. And a lot of times it's done from search terms. You want to A/B test, at least to an extent. We're going to get into messaging here, but ultimately you'll want to grade the quality of this list with the actual analytics. Back to our approach of marketing, test, optimize, scale. You want to optimize towards the individuals that were working best, find more of those, and look for opportunities to scale, maybe adding more profiles that are doing outreach to LinkedIn over time. But it all starts with this initial list. Next, you'll want to create a messaging flow. A outlined series of messages ensures you're following up with prospects. And I can tell you, it's all in the follow-up, has to be done in a timely manner, while also providing value. Otherwise, it will be overlooked. I reference often a stat that shows, most transactions occur between touch point 7 and touch point 12, follow-up 7 and follow-up 12 from outreach. And most business development professionals don't send more than one follow-up, and it drops every number. I believe it's only 10% that send a follow-up 7, follow-up 12. Again, it has to be done in the right way. If you're saying, how about now, 11 times, you're not providing value, you're going to get a turnoff from the other side, and that will show up in your response rates. That'll show up in your overall numbers. So here's our recommended structure for you to follow. Message 1, the hook. Provide value while also showing them that you did your homework. There is the use of automated tools and templates at that. You can have something more generic. You can have something that fills in, but that's also going to show up in your response rates. So if you are doing this manually, if you're sending 50 invitations a day and you're providing message 1 in that invitation, and you've done a bit of homework, you know who they are, you've mentioned something from their profile. If they have a company name, maybe they're an owner of an organization, you look them up and you bring that up. The more you can show them you know them, the more likely they are to respond, the more obligated they'll feel to respond. If somebody writes me a message and they're referencing a past video I was in and something from the video specifically, I feel obliged to get back to them. Rude if I don't. Maybe I don't have a high enough volume of those. I can imagine it's tougher for Gary V or a larger, more forward-facing professional. But at the same time, who you're going after, the more personalized you will be. You get the idea. The response rate's going to be better. Message 2, the thanks and value. So once the request is accepted, you could thank them. You don't want to fall into a stereotype of the LinkedIn networker and, go over the top with it. But at the same time, add some positivity to the next message, and then go deeper into what you can offer the investor. Speak to their needs. That's what they care about. And what is the professional value you can bring to the investors? I like to think of the founder of an early unicorn. And if they personally reached out to you as an investor, be it retail or accredited, how privileged you would feel. If they articulated in the right way, talked about the right partners that are getting involved with them, how more likely you'd be to grasp the opportunity and get involved, and even look back at a later time and say, wow, I passed on that. I didn't even respond to the guy, but they reached out to me back then. I wish I would have got involved. I would be living in a different house today. So that is how I like to picture it. Founders will often share with me, hey, I don't want to really push this on my friends and family. Well, what if you become a $1 billion organization and they don't benefit from it? They're likely going to be borderline upset at you for not sharing it with them, not giving them the opportunity to get involved, whether they pass or move forward. So, speak to the value that you're going to be providing the prospective investor here. Message 3, the ask. So you've already built a rapport here. There's some dialogue going back and forth, hopefully at this point. If not, now you're getting more serious. Give your prospect a clear call to action. I remember hearing for real estate, failing real estate agents were attributed to not asking for the deal. So go for a clear call to action. All the real estate agents in my life who are watching this are wondering, what do I know about their market and why am I referencing that? But you get the idea. Clear call to action. In this case, it's probably to schedule a call with you to talk more in depth. Put your actual scheduling link inside the message. Have it populating on your calendar. Make it a real streamlined thing for all parties involved. Don't go back and forth with, this is what I have open. Oh no, I got a thing that today. Right there, the calendar that's open. And you can wake up in the morning and see your calls for the day with prospective investors. And then lastly, I'll have Danny comment on this, the follow-up. If your prospect does not respond, do not be afraid to follow up multiple times. We're professionals. Don't be bashful. It is all in the follow-up. People forget who you are. They forget what you're doing. Whether they consider or intend to respond, they likely won't. If you make it easier and easier and easier for them to follow up, you will see that show up in your analytics, in your response rate, in your outreach to investor rate. It is all in the follow-up. I've seen message 4 extend out to message 7, message 12. If you're offering value all the way through, it will be encouraged. Danny, what are your thoughts towards that? What are your thoughts towards the messaging?
I think this hits right home. I mean, you got to give an example. So if you're an issuer and you have a live campaign, let's say now you're at a Reg CF, you can raise up to 5 million. Each month you're raising $1 million, and you're showing all this momentum. Like, we just raised 2 million, we just raised 3 million. Would you love to get involved and get your feedback? Those are all those follow-ups, 5, 6 messages. I just got quoted by Forbes magazine, and here's a link. That's social proof. It shows commitment, it shows your drive. It shows that you're just showing to show momentum, milestones met. You can get creative with that messaging. And this area, you're able to show like, you just catch them at that right time. They're looking for another investment. You're looking at it as a numbers game. So you're still reaching out to, 30 to 50 of these on a daily level. And, getting creative and showing that social proof and the milestones met, it's going to just show momentum and build that trust at a higher level. And you got to keep in mind, most of the time these investors are busy, so they may not catch your first couple messages, but then they look at the thread, and then they're, like you said, Jason, they feel like they have to talk to you. And that's really what you want to create there.
Exactly. And I love how you pointed out numbers game. I was taught very young in my career, if you're getting, 20% of the deals that you're going for, that's a very effective closing rate. That's business development, investor, pitch. I didn't understand that early in my career. I thought, oh wow, that's 80% of the people saying no. It sounds like a lot of rejection. Doesn't sound like what you're doing is working. I was completely wrong. I've seen 10% closing rates crush for major organizations. When we're looking at these LinkedIn invitations, we're anticipating a 20% or higher acceptance rate. Again, 80% of the invitations that you're sending out will not be accepted. Don't take it personal. I could give you 100 reasons on why that may occur. That has no reflection on you whatsoever. When we're sending these messages, we look for a 20% response rate. We used to call it a 10 to 20% response rate. We've gotten better at it. Email, you're looking at, let's call it a 20 to 30% open rate, maybe a 2 to 3% response rate. To be able to get 20% or higher LinkedIn messaging response rate, outstanding and powerful. It means you reach out, you're messaging 100 investors and you're hearing back from 20 of them. Excellent. More productive than many days at conferences or pitch fests at that. So, as you're creating the messaging flow, here's some more pro tips. Make sure your business is SEC compliant and that you're sticking to the terms of the filing. This applies to Reg D accredited investor raises. It applies to the new rules for Reg CF and Reg A plus to accredited and unaccredited. Run everything by legal. We're not lawyers. Danny's not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. We're marketers. Make sure everything's run by. I wouldn't want your lawyer telling you how to write LinkedIn outreach messages. I want to make sure for all the legal audiences that are listening that this does not constitute legal advice whatsoever. Number 2, LinkedIn limits you to 30 connection requests per day. We get away with 50. We say 30 because you will not be blocked at 30. And we believe everyone has time to sit down for an hour, send out 30 invitations to their key target audiences, investors, strategic partners, what have you. Every professional should be doing this. If every professional has an automated drip, okay, but manually, every professional can benefit from it, and everyone raising capital should be utilizing it. Any concerns you have are just a matter of communication and can be talked through to work in a way that does not go down the route of your fears. There is a cool way to go about it for anyone who is afraid of outreach around their offering, but there is a way to do it. It's just a matter of how to get LinkedIn outreach to work for you, not if. Number 3, be professional but personal. We're humans. We're not robotic CEOs. If I think of some of our vendors, they're friends at this point, even if I had never heard of them, even if they reached out through a LinkedIn message. If I think of, investors in our clients' organizations, they definitely have that personal relationship at this point as well. Even when there's thousands of investors, the CEOs at our clients' offices go out of their way to build personal relationships with them as many as possible because they see what that means in terms of loyalty, of terms of social sharing and bringing their friends and family on board. It is still a very real thing to have relationships between the founder and investors, even at higher volumes. And number 4, use in messages for particularly hot prospects. So if somebody's not responding, you could go through the in-message route. If someone's just very important and you don't want to wait for them to accept your invite, you could go here. The message shows up as a LinkedIn message and email. It does say in on it, in mail, but at the same time, you're going to get through with your message. You receive a very limited number of these, so choose these wisely. Danny, you want to talk about being intentional?
Yeah, so going into this section here, nobody likes that cold type of messaging. They want to feel like, you put some time into it, you found something cool about them, there's some value there. I touched on this earlier. If at a networking event, you're not just going to start with your pitch the first time you go up to them, or dating. You're gonna, kind of warm up to it, right? There are some similarities there, and you want to create a meaningful relationship, and I'm sure everybody's done this. But this applies online as well. You want some similarities there. You want to, go in with what's important. You want to be able to create that social type of capacity where you're creating capital. You want to offer something to them, that's value, because I could tell you I get several messages a day, and if they're just looking to sell me on the first message, I don't respond the same way as someone that did that research, found something cool, and wasn't unique about it. And it's very similar offline and online, and being strategic about it as well. And then going off the feedback you're getting, or did they say that, that really intrigued me to hop on a call? Or if you're not getting that response rate, you got to switch something up. So it's being intentional, like you said, Jason, going into what type of metrics you were looking to hit as far as, connections to calls, and then, what the closing rate from the calls you're looking for, that feedback's gold. And we always say that applies offline and online. They near each other. So if you're able to use that data and be more intentional with what you're seeing as far as the results go, you can make those correct changes to, we call what, crack the code.
Absolutely. And constant optimization to crack the code is what it's all about. But don't just do outreach to do it. Do it to hit your goals. Be very, very intentional about that. And focus on the core areas of your business. So you need to speak the language of investors. They typically invest because of strong leadership, because of the market opportunity. They want to have the experience of investing in a high growth vertical, and a candidate to see high multipliers. So just being part of that, you want to make sure that is a part of the messaging, a part of the communications when you're going back and forth. And overall, there's a fear of missing out. When you look at retail investors, there is a FOMO, and they do not want to look back in years and say, wow, I could have got involved in that, versus placing a minimum investment, which for many of these campaigns is $100 to $500. If we're looking at an average investment amount, 500 to 1,000, you should say 750 to 1,000. We're seeing that drop in many cases, but with higher volumes of retail investors, so a higher raise amount as a whole. But you're going to need a lot of these guys. You're able to throw in some larger 5, 10, 25K investments. We're picturing even larger ones taking place with some of the new rules that allow for higher participation from accredited investors or from investors as a whole. All of that will move it up, but at the same time, know who you're going after. We do these target market graphs where we break down everything about an individual, what they do on the weekends, where they get their news, who the biggest influences in their life are. Speak their language fits into all of it. And according to LinkedIn, here's what you should focus on. Show them your growth potential. Very clear numbers, the only way to measure. So in terms of your business and revenue stream, tell them what you're aiming to solve, the actual purpose of your organization, the reason for it long term, not just some quick revenue or user-based growth. Prove that you're different from your competition. Establish that uniqueness, establish an edge with an innovative look. Innovation can come from a form of post as well before even speaking to somebody, and show them how to connect with your customers. You must have customers. There's no way around this. You could call them B2B clients. You could call them users. There's no way around it though. And the best approach is to show an investor some outstanding engagements on your post. If they see those 200 investor posts and they can be another investor on top of it, if they see hundreds of customers commenting on it, you could say whatever you want about digital, but that's inarguable. It shows something very positive to an audience who does not know who you are. Danny, you want the bottom line?
Yeah, so just to provide high level overview of what we went over, LinkedIn again is one of the most underutilized platforms we found to really build that strong relationship. And when done right, you can really find the right investors for your business. And don't underestimate what the ability can do. I mean, we've had clients do 25K investments through this, speaking to their terms and going into that, showing the offering. There's a lot of potential here, partnerships, lead generation. What your initiative is, you just want to craft it around there and take as much advantage as you can to utilize this platform in that authentic way, and the results will reflect that.
Absolutely. Core Connects just put out some amazing stats on the industry. They used Reg CF campaigns as there's more tracking that occurs there. There's more analytics, more consistency as a whole. And of 1,000 Reg CF campaigns, I believe it was just over 200 that went into seven-figure levels. Given the cap was 1.07 million at the time, it's now 5 million. That allows for more seven-figure levels. Number one. Number two, not all groups are looking to raise seven figures. Some of the Reg CFs are around 50 to 250K goals. So, different factors at that, but you get the idea. The majority of campaigns do not hit their full raise amount. They do not hit the full goal at hand. We've been with groups that are 50K, 100K short. So still a successful run, over 900K, maybe 900 to a million, but they could have done 1.07. They could have got an extra 100,000, and they were left scratching their heads. Was there one more post I could have done? One more channel I could have added? Extra $100,000 is an extra $100,000. Was there something else I could have done? And those are reasonably successful campaigns. You look at ones that hit 200 to 500K and they were going for $1 million. There was some legal costs. There was some financial audits and different types of advisor fees involved. Marketing was an expense. Marketing, the biggest cost is generally advertising. Maybe they spent 50K to hit that 250. Maybe they spent more. Either way, there's a return. But I'll talk with those founders and they'll be whiteboarding, what could I have done differently? What should I do differently on my next campaign? Howard Marks at Start Engine would say, always be raising. We're working with some groups on their fourth round, third round with us and seeing more and more success as things move along. So don't be looking at the drawing board after the fact. Don't be dipping your toe in the water and determining, hey, should I try just one channel, see what happens? I don't want to spend too much time. I don't want to spend too much money. Go all out. Put together a plan of attack, put together a strategy that encapsulates exactly who your target audiences are, organic and paid content outreach on the organic side, paid advertising towards those audiences everywhere they go online, have those touch points, map out the creative, map out the messaging, have numbers involved for what you're looking to hit on each of these channels, and do whatever you physically can every day of your campaign to hit or surpass your goal. It will be a immensely powerful marketing tool if you do. If you hit, your full cap, 1.07, 5 million, 2 million, 3 million, whatever it may be, and you're able to use that in your B2B conversations, in your strategic partner conversations, with the press, with the customer base itself, it will do good things for years to come. We've seen awards, we've seen different types of accolades because of the success of these campaigns for the founders involved. Go all out, and LinkedIn is a channel that everybody listening to this can be doing for whatever it is that you're focusing on. But speaking to investors, what we've discussed is virtually free. You can pay for a LinkedIn Sales Navigator account. It's called $80 per month. You can associate an hour to 2 hours per day to crank away at your list, crank away the messaging, make sure the follow-ups are present. There are tools to automate some of this, but don't jeopardize quality. If you have the ability to do this firsthand, do it firsthand. You will see the best response rates. Have your calendar scheduling link there. We use Calendly. There's 10 other ones that are great, and fill it. Just have stop calls with these prospective investors, hit the full limits of how many you could send out each day, and go for your largest investments from LinkedIn outreach. Connect with exactly who you want to, and see where things go from there. Again, we use it for our business development. We see in the founders bring on large investors from it. We want to make this available to you. So do not hesitate. Do not say LinkedIn outreach didn't work. Figure out how to get it to work for you.
Well said. I think that's all the touch points that should be covered here.
Excellent. Excellent. So as we're wrapping up the webinar in the next couple minutes here, questions are encouraged. You can email us directly. We feel, a responsibility to respond to any questions around investment crowdfunding. So please feel free to get in touch with us through our site. Danny, if anyone wants to reach out to you directly, what is the best way to do so?
Emails at ds@digitalnicheagency.com.
The letter D, the letter S at digitalnicheagency.com, and highly encourage you to do so. Danny's a wealth of information and will tell you straightforward what to be doing. Reach out to him on LinkedIn. Here he's on Clubhouse daily. We're actually doing a Clubhouse tonight. Make sure to listen to him there. Twitter, whatever your choice platform is. I'm available on LinkedIn as well too. So do not hesitate to reach out with your questions. We work closely with the portals. We can provide all different types of insights, whether we work with you or not. We welcome a warm marketing chat every time, and test, optimize, and scale these channels. Excellent. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you next time.